Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. I am LuAnn Dickson, and I am the owner of EveryStem Florist software. Um, I've got Vicky Laffey here, and she is the owner of a business called Wedding Florist Mentor. And she is an amazing florist based in the UK, and she has been doing floral designs for over 14 years and has kind of branched out not only from floral design, now she's into coaching other florists to run their businesses more efficiently, more confidently, and to help them really create systems. And the reason she's doing that is because she has created these systems in her own business over time and really sees that being efficient with systems, having self-confidence, kind of feeling good about yourself can really translate into a successful floral business. So, welcome, Vicky. Thanks for being here with us.
It's my pleasure. I mean, what an introduction. Thank you so much.
Well, Vicky, I am so happy to have you here. I know you've been an EveryStem member for a while and that you use EveryStem in your floral business and that you recommend it to your students in your coaching business. And I'd love to understand a little bit about your background, your floral business, and your coaching business. So just kind of run us through kind of a little bit about you and where you are now in the floral industry.
Sure. Yeah, so on the 30th of January, it'll be my 14th birthday in business. I don't know where the time has gone, but I basically I'm a bit of a redundancy success story. So after the financial crash, the timing was right for me. I desperately needed to get out of my job in the banking industry. The company I worked for was a bit like the British version of the Lehman's Brothers, I think. That gives you all the information you need to know. And yeah, I left. I started my own floristry business after some training, and here we are now. It's changed and developed over the years. The reason I got into this was because I'm a very creative person, but I'm also a very logical one as well, which comes in very handy. But I'm a very creative person, and that creativity, that reason for being and doing has like really just translated into everything I do have ever done over the years, really. And yeah, it's changed, it's developed, it's survived COVID, it's been through its ups and downs as all businesses have, and I am super, super pleased to still be here and not only be here, but thriving. We did the Netflix, the first series of Love is Blind UK on Netflix, which was amazing. That was a bit of a career highlight for me. We've won multiple awards now. And yeah, I'm just really, really, really proud of where we are. And with regards to the mentoring business, I just feel like there's so much in me to pass across to other people. So it's bursting out of me really. Um, so things like, I want people to trust their own creativity, and I want people to, realize that they have it within them to do what needs to be done. And I started this kind of in lockdown, as a lot of people did, really a lot of florists, a lot of coaches. But yeah, I started this then, and it was more of a general small business thing then. But then I niched down into wedding florists because, they say niche down to blow up, as it were. And it was, it just, that's where the magic started to happen because I could really relate to these people and get what they were going through and how they were thinking. And it's worked really well. So I'm super pleased with it. Yeah. I
That's
think
so
that's
awesome.
long story short.
I love it. And I want to talk a little bit about your floral business to start with. I'm going to quick stop sharing and I'm going to just go back to our
Yeah.
screen here. Um, I know when we first started talking and you became an EveryStem member,
Mm.
you did a lot of weddings and you're very business focused and business minded. Um, and this amazing opportunity that you mentioned earlier, just a few minutes ago, about Netflix came your way. And I think it's fascinating Because a lot of us as floral designers see these big, amazing gigs like editorial jobs or jobs in with celebrity, kind of impact. Something like Netflix, such a large streaming service with viewers, around the world. Um, it's amazing to land a gig where you are doing the floral designs for several weddings on a TV set with a full production crew with Netflix. Not only are you doing that, but you're also making it a profitable endeavor for your business. And
Hmm.
you're kind of parlaying that into other things through marketing and networking and things like that. So I think a lot of people are really interested in how they go about getting a gig like that and what the steps you took, not that you did like one, two, three things and then all of a sudden Netflix came running, but what kind of did you see as the general kind of path you took and a little bit about that experience with Netflix and kind of how you were sure that you were going to be able to make that a profitable endeavor, not just like, I happened to get a credit on Netflix and now I'm like in the red because I did that. So tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about that.
Well, first of all, I couldn't have done it without every stem. It was super important to have that. I was so pleased I signed up because I think I'd only been a member for a few months at that point, maybe, but I couldn't have done it without it because, as you can imagine, I don't do it myself. There's a team of people who I have with me. So, not only in terms of making it profitable by creating recipes, the people who were working with me needed some instructions as well. So it was really useful to have the notes on the recipes to pass that across to people. And, just it's just the whole package really. But in terms of the recipes and how I made it profitable, first of all, I would say if anyone's approached for a gig like this or any sort of can you do it for exposure kind of thing, I mean, there are some circumstances where exposure is good. And yeah, if it works for both businesses, great, go for it. But something like this is huge. And it's not just can you provide a vase of flowers for the background of this shot? It's, I can't give exact figures, of course, because of NDAs, but thousands of pounds worth of weddings. There were 6 weddings back to back that whole week. We were camped out at the venue basically for the whole for 8 days really. And it needed to be flexible. This is the thing. So not that I expect everyone to know the world of TV, but you can make all these plans, and then at the last minute they're checking their shots and like, oh, actually, can we change that, or can we just have a bit of extra something over there? So I needed the flexibility of EveryStem to be able to do that. I needed it to have some sort of basis of a plan to create the recipes to make sure it'd be profitable and that I could do it within the budget they were asking. But also I needed the flexibility to be able to say, right, okay, we need to order a few extra red flowers, nothing specific or whatever it was. And that's how we were able to kind of be a perfect fit for the program, really. I know you were asking me earlier how I got a gig like that as well. How did little old me get a gig like that? And basically, it boils down to having a great online presence, which is something I shout about to my followers. It's so important. New florists who are like, oh, just do what my business on Facebook, or I haven't got a website yet, and I'm like, invest in one yesterday, because it takes a while for your website to get going and filter into Google, and it takes work and practice and development, and you really need this online presence to not even get found by Netflix, just to do your day-to-day job to make your business as strong as possible. So I found out that it was because it was filmed at a local venue, like perhaps just under an hour from where I am. So they were obviously Googling for florists in that area. And I found out later that it was between me and 2 other florists. So there was 3 of us up for the job. And the art directors and the producers were sort of like getting their heads together and saying, what do you reckon? I like this one. What do you think? And they were like, yes, I agree. And so they approached me. So not only did they find me, but they approached me, they decided on me because of my online presence, because they looked at it and went, yes, she could pull off this job, that she is right for us. The other two were very capable florists, but it's that confidence. And this is what your clients do when they're shopping for their weddings. It doesn't have to be something as big as a Netflix gig or anything like that. Um, it's just, your brides, your grooms, that they're shopping around for their florist, and they need to look at your website and say, yeah, she's the one for us. So that's how I got that. That's how that happened. But EveryStem was an absolute godsend, I have to say. It's flexible, and that's what I love about it.
That's awesome. So let's dissect what you said just into a few pieces because I think some of the gems that you're dropping here are really important to kind of like define. So the first thing is I have seen several florists who use EveryStem posting stories saying, should I create a website? And
Mm.
I always write back if they have the little question bubble or they have a place to put a comment. I'm like, abso-freaking-lutely, you
Yes,
need a
no question
website.
about it.
Every florist needs a website. It doesn't have to be super complicated. I mean, I run a software for florists and my website is on Squarespace. It is not that complicated. The sales page, the part that you see when you look for EveryStem is a Squarespace website. It's not where the software is housed.
Yeah,
But using Squarespace is super easy or any other simple, platform that's kind of a
yeah.
drag and drop system is so simple to
I,
start.
I use Wix. Yeah, yeah,
Wix is a great other example. So I think the fact that you were not only discovered because you had a great online presence, which, having good SEO and having a website is number one, but then also something that you've put on the website, the feeling, the vibe, the kind of welcoming atmosphere that you've developed on your website must have attracted them. Did they say anything to you that like, this is why we chose you? Did you ask?
I think it's just because it gave them the confidence in that I could pull off the job. But it was more because it's obviously a wedding-based program. And looking at my website, it was very obvious I do weddings and I do them well. And this is again what your clients want to see. Like they want to see, if they're looking for weddings, they want to see weddings. If they're looking for a funeral bouquet, they want to look at a retail shop's website. And yes, you can mix those things, but in my experience, like the magic starts to happen when it's very clear. Your messages is very clear. Like I'm a wedding florist. This is all about weddings. They don't want to wade through like funeral items or gift bouquets or whatever. They want to see very clear messaging. Um, so yeah, it was very clear that I did that and I did it well, and they were like, "Yeah, she's the one."
That's so awesome. I love that. And then tell us a little bit about when you did your flower planning. I know that the
Mm.
people who, were obviously directing and running the production of Love is Blind UK were obviously very heavily involved in the choices for color palettes and things like that. But tell me a little bit about how you decided to order the flowers and like how you developed the designs.
Yeah, so it was a bit of a collaboration between myself and the art director, who was Luke Fuller, and he obviously knows the couples at that point. I don't really ever get to meet them except on the day. So he comes up with the initial concepts, and it's a bit of a backwards and forwards. Like I'm like, well, what about this? Or maybe you could put something extra over there. Or so there's a mood board, there's a rough plan, there's color schemes, there's things that are important to the Netflix gods, the powers that be. So we came up with a rough plan based on that, but we also needed to account for extras as well. So it happened quite a lot. It's become a bit of a joke now, really. That we'd be in our little sort of flower area and we'd get a call on the atheist, sort of saying, oh, can we just get a little something in the background over there? Can you just knock up a vase or two over here? Or maybe it's just that, you catered for a certain amount on the aisle, for example, and it actually doesn't quite work for the shots. So you end up shortening the aisle and putting those pieces elsewhere, or, whatever it is. That the world of TV is a very sort of fast-paced one, and it can change on the morning of the actual wedding. It's itself, like any time up till they start filming, really. So it was fascinating process. Honestly, I really want to do more of it, and it's very, very hard work. You need to be flexible. If you're the kind of florist who wants everything locked in a month before the wedding and that's it, no changes, then it's probably not the gig for you, I have to say. But again, it's that flexibility of every stem. I needed, yeah, I've looked at other floral softwares, not to name names, but I found those very restrictive. This is like, because I'm a very creative person, and I don't sort of, I know Americans work slightly differently, that they'll sort of say, they'll want to know exactly the variety so they can order those with their wholesalers. And we have Dutch web shops, though, we can go on and we can sort of say, like, um, I know we need like a, I don't know, like a purple spiky flower in these designs. Oh, they've got some lovely delphinium on sale. I'll try those. So I try not to be too specific. I might write purple tall flower or purple spiky flower or maybe just red rose instead of a particular variety, and I'll see what's on the wholesaler's web shop. So that flexibility to be quite general on every stem works really well with the way I um, shop. And I can, if I've written just red rose, for example, I know that I need 100 of them, and but 50 of them are for like really important items like bouquets, or maybe I need tall ones for tall flower bowl type centerpieces or whatever. I can do that. I can buy those sort of premium ones, but I also know that some of them are just for little bud vases, and I don't really need to spend a ton of money on those. So I just maybe get some 50 cheaper ones for those, or that sort of thing. So it works really well. But because it's flexible, that means you can be really specific with it as well if you're that type of florist. So you can type in a particular variety that you love to use. So yeah, honestly, I wouldn't be without it. I don't know how I ever managed without it, really. So thanks, LuAnn.
I love that. So, when you're ordering flowers and you're building recipes, I think one of the biggest things for a lot of our members and other florists in general who might be watching this or who are live with us right now is taking that inspiration image or collection of images that we've created a mood board with, maybe some of the things that our clients potentially looking for, or if we're a newer florist, things that we want to create to kind of build a portfolio, and figuring out how to order the right number of flowers to have what we need, like you're saying, have a little flexibility, but then not be left with, 15 buckets of flowers at the end. And so this kind of understanding, I think, number one, as a florist who's been doing it for 20 years now myself, I feel like it comes with experience, obviously, but being able to fast track that is a gold mine. And I think when I started my flower shop and got into flowers, and when you started, there weren't a lot of availability or things that were out there that helped us to figure out how to do
Yeah.
this. So there was a lot of trial and error. So you created recipes or saved recipes that you created originally that were very accurate, that had the right counts, that you took inspiration images of, and you created this thing called the Recipe Vault. Over 20 different um, designs that you have actually made and vetted and figured out the accurate stem counts for. And this is something that you offer through your business, the Wedding Florist Mentor. Um, and I just want you to tell us a little bit about why you created it. Then we can get into kind of how we're going to put it in, how we've put it into EveryStem and everything, but why you created it and what people have benefited out of it when you're offering this just as a collection of recipes that you know are going to be reliable for people.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, like I'm so freaking excited to see this on every stem. Like I'm so pleased you put the recipe saving feature in. This is something I've been on it you about since the beginning, isn't it? So
Yes, we've been talking about it a lot, right?
yeah, game changer, game changer. So because you've implemented that, we are able to plug things like my recipe vault into it, and it's going to just save so much time, being able to just pick a recipe that you've done before and plugging it into Event. All your flowers are now there, all your recipes are in there. Done. You can even add different things using those same flower types. And anyway, I'm so excited. But you did ask me a question. I think there's always that fear of over ordering, isn't there? And when you and I were we're just young and carefree, young florists. You maybe the clever ones among us has like maybe an Excel spreadsheet or something like that. But most of us just tried to do our best and figure it out and write it down on a bit of paper or something. But you sort of think, well, I think this is about right, but then there's always the fear of under or over ordering, and you want to make profit out of the event still. Um, and I created it because I mean I'd done these designs anyway. Like every single recipe within this vault is ones that I have created for real weddings or real photo shoots. Um, they're tried and tested, you know. But I found that the people who follow me were like they were really tired of over ordering and therefore overspending, and especially for a lot of people are kind of like struggling with how to cost and recipe the larger designs as well. They look at a floral arch and they go, "Oh my goodness, there's something scares the life out of them for something like that," and they're like, "How on earth do I even start quoting for that?" Whereas you and I know, like, well, it's just the same as quoting for anything else. It's just more flowers, you know. But that's easy for us to say. We've done it many times before. So I wanted to create something that let people be, still have their own creativity to put their own stamp on it, but also to give them a start. It's like you said, fast track. If I've tried to think about how much money I've wasted over the years on weddings and stuff in the beginning. Having these recipes or working towards some sort of system, some recipe like this is so it's time saving, it's money saving, I can't tell you how good it is. A lot of people who've bought this already from my recipe vault, which is in a PDF format, which I believe you get in EveryStem as well. Yes, if you buy the collection, you also get the PDFs, don't you?
Yes.
So a lot of people who've bought this have like, I absolutely love that they've automatically done what I hoped for them to do and adapted them for their own needs as well. So, you can look at this beautiful picture of the peach and the blue bouquet at the top here, and maybe your client wants pinks and blues. Maybe they want just white or whites or whatever the color scheme is. You can take that. People have actually shown me their print offs and they've scribbled out, okay, instead of peach garden rose, I'm going to use like a nice, I don't know, Playa Blanca or white cloud rose or whatever it is. Instead of those blue delphiniums, I'm going to use a nice white stock or something, whatever it is, and they can. But because they've got that recipe there, they've got that basis of something to start on. It's not a blank page they're looking at anymore, so they can look at it, adapt it if they need to or not. They can keep it as it is and go, brilliant. I've got a wedding coming up that's in peaches and blues. Lovely. That'll start it off great. Um,
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah,
There's options there, which is
yeah, it's flexible.
so
And
good because it's sometimes it is that blank page, like you said,
yeah,
just staring at the blank page is the hardest part. So this is just like the ignition that gets your wheels turning, you know?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think for a lot of new florists, this is the case. You need some sort of basis to start on. But I'm a huge believer in creativity. Every florist should look at something and not copy it. They should put their own stamp on this because that's why your client's chosen you in the first place. And that's what it's all about, your creativity, your style, your vibe. But a lot of people have said to me that they, like experienced florists, I should say, where, they kind of they're sick of doing things the way they always do them, and they're like, oh, I love Vicky's work. I want to see what goes into that. I've known a florist who bought this for. Well, she's been a florist for God decades now, and she she confided in me that she actually just bought it out of curiosity to have a bit of a nosy to see what I do, but see something that might be good for the girls that worked for her in the shop, and she said she's used it for every wedding since she's got it, and it's almost halved her wedding flower costs. Just because she's not overbuying, she's following this recipe, and
Wow.
so it saved her that money easily. She's bought the recipe vault and boom, she's got the money back straight away from saving money on the weddings. All it takes is like overbuying, buy two or three wraps of flowers, and that's it. Your profit's gone. Whereas if you stick to your recipe, you're saving those two or three wraps of flowers, and you're making your money back straight away. So yeah,
It
there's
is.
lots.
There's a lot of value in the fact that it's something that you can adapt and use over and over again. Because frankly, from an experienced florist perspective, because I've done thousands of weddings probably now between owning my own flower business and freelancing for the last several years while I'm working on EveryStem, you know, I see that designs are cyclical and styles are cyclical. But when I freelance for different florists, I know exactly if they tell me, oh, we're going to do a broken arch, I could pretty much tell you what that arch is probably going to,
Yeah, yeah,
you know? So reinventing the wheel every single time you design something is basically a loss because that time and that money that you're spending recreating the wheel over and over and over again, there is value that you could be building a website. You could be attracting new clients. You could be training your
absolutely.
team. You could be doing so many more valuable things. And so
Yeah,
that's why when you and I started talking initially about you using EveryStem and along with other members, we're like, we'd love to be able to save recipes. You know, taking this recipe vault of your proven recipes where you're getting, 7 bouquets, multiple centerpieces, fireplace installations, hanging installations, and arches and tall arrangements, all these things, these pictures that you see on this page are all the designs, or a representation of some of the designs that Vicky's created that are going to be in EveryStem through the recipe collections. You know, being able to take that, save it using the recipe saving feature, and then simply adjust it and customize it for someone's client, whether it's your own design or it's a design that you're purchasing, like one of Vicky's designs that you're going to be purchasing and adapting for your own business. So tell me a little bit about um, let's just switch over to the dashboard. I want to see if everybody can see this. Can you see the dashboard, Vicky, in my every
yeah,
STEM?
I can. Yeah,
So basically, the recipes are going to be grouped up for Vicky's collection into 4 categories. So it's these 4 lower um, recipe collections here. We've got bouquets, we've got centerpieces, we've got installations, and we've got venue florals. And when you open that event, if you're an EveryStem member, you know what that looks like. You're going to have the recipe, you're going to have the notes, you're going to have a link to the PDF with the inspiration image and all of Vicky's tips on mechanics and her pro tips on kind of how to put the design together. She actually includes her thoughts on this is the order of how I would build this design. So it's not just a recipe. It's not just a list of flowers. It's so much more than that. And so I think breaking it up into these different categories is great because it's going to allow people to save the recipe and edit it so easily. So I'm going to go into another wedding that we have here just as an example. And I'm going to click on personals. And I just want to show everybody how fast it is. So if this was one of Vicky's recipes, you can literally click on the header, you can click on save recipe, and you can click submit. Now that recipe is going to be saved into your recipe collection, and you're going to be able to see the notes, you're going to be able to see the items, and then you're going to be able to dump that recipe into the same event, a different event, a new event. So it's so easy. You're able to adjust the flowers, you're able to add in your library flowers, and then you can customize it once it's in a new event with whatever your client needs or whatever you design, artistically that you want to add to it. So if we were to add this, I'm just going to go back to that same event. And if we were to, I'm just going to use this rehearsal dinner page. If we were to, or let's just use the same page. Say we want bouquet, one bouquet for one of our brides, and then we want another bouquet for the other bride. Let's say we want to add. If we just add column, we're going to be able to click on from recipe. We're going to be able to find that bouquet design, and we're just going to click. We can include the notes or we can skip the notes. So this was specific to one client my designer was going to make on a certain day. So maybe I'll skip the notes on that. And now we've got our second bouquet saved right here. And we have bouquet one and bouquet two. So I've got my recipe built out. And maybe for this client, I want to add something or change something. And I've got a little bit of wiggle room here if I'm charging $380 for both bouquets. I could even add, maybe this bride wants more anemones and the other one doesn't want any anemones, and we could adjust that. I mean, it's just that simple. You can add more flowers and you can change it as much as you want. So, Vicky, tell me a
Just like
little bit
magic,
about,
isn't it? It's
yeah, tell
magic.
me like how you feel you might be using this feature and how you'll kind of be encouraging your students to use your recipes with this recipe saving feature going forward.
Yeah. Oh, honestly, this recipe saving feature is just insanely good. Like I can't, just as a user, not irrespective of this call and you and I working together, I'm just going to really enjoy using it. Um, it's just going to be magic. It's going to save time. It's something that I've wanted from the beginning of using every stem, so I'm so happy. So it's just going to save like time. So there might be certain things that I get asked for quite often, like pastel color bouquets are quite popular over here. Pastel color sort of schemes, colorful but muted, they might call it. So there's things that I've done before that I am it literally just able to save the recipe and then plug it into this new event, and then boom, it's done. It's going to be such a time saver. It's like you said earlier, you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time now. So it's going to no longer do I have to go in and choose individual flower types, individual varieties, or whatever it is. That I'm just going to be able to go bang. I'm going to use that pastel colored bouquet now. Done, dusted. And also that means I can then use the use it to create like the floral arch recipe because I've got all the flower types there and now because I've just plugged that recipe in. So it's going to be super super handy. I was actually testing it out earlier with some of my Love is Blind recipes as well. From I used that. I thought I'm going to try this recipe feature out, and honestly, it was so brilliant. And who knows, maybe in the future we might do a bit of a Netflix themed recipe package for you. Who knows? Who knows? But we'll see if I'm allowed to do that. But
Yeah, we'll check with the powers
yeah,
that be and see if we can get away with that. That'd be so
yeah.
cool.
But yeah, it's just going to be it's going to be a game changer and a time saver, absolutely. And in terms of like how I use it, and in terms of how I teach my florist followers to use it, it's like it's not just an Excel spreadsheet, guys. This is like a proper software that you can just literally plug things into now, and you know create recipes at the click of a few buttons. And not only that, but as you're doing that, you can really sort of finalize it and kind of put the finishing touches to it to see your profit at the end of it as well. So if you see that profit figure creeping up a little bit, you might want to go in there and sort of just say, okay, well, what can I do without? Maybe I could use more of those and less of those because that fits in with the packet sort of sizes or whatever, and that saves you some money there. So it's this is like really where every cent pays for itself, to be honest, because it just saves you that money on your wedding flower spend, and together with the recipes, it's going to save you even more, really, isn't it?
I've had so many people over the past couple weeks reach out to me and say, I've had some new freelancers come in this last season, and they don't really work with a lot of florists that use a software or kind of have very accurate flower orders. And so they came in, worked with me a few times during the season, and every time they walk in the door, they say, oh, we're not going to have enough flowers. And we go through the process. I say, trust me, I use EveryStem, it works. And at the end of the weekend, they're like, wow, I cannot believe we had
Yeah.
enough and we don't have 6 buckets of leftover flowers that we have to throw away and handle. Because it's not just what you're throwing away. I think it's thinking about how much time are we spending processing flowers that are going to end up
Yeah.
in the trash? How
a very
much
good
time
point.
are we spending handling flowers, taking them to the venue, doing things with them, and then throwing them in the trash or compost? And how much time are we spending ordering these flowers that we really
Yeah.
don't need and thinking about it? And so having recipes from Vicky that are tested, proven recipes, knowing even if it's the base of the greenery, like for example, with this two-piece fireplace mantle design that's here in the bottom right corner, when I saw that, I was like, that is such a godsend because so many people struggle with how much greenery do I buy for something like this? And how do I know that I'm going to have enough? And the flowers are important in a design like this, but the greenery really develops the shape. It really kind of gives it a lot of texture. And
Yeah.
so I think it's important because with greenery and, things like baby's breath and stuff like that, people get so caught up with how much they need to buy, and they do tend to overbuy on that. And so I think the fact that a lot of these designs that Vicky has created do have a decent amount of greenery, like the arch here on the top left, even if you take the base of greenery and save that portion of the recipe, and
Mm,
then add your own flowers. I think using the recipe saving feature in that capacity can be amazing. And so I'm kind of calling that building base recipes. And so you don't have to save a full recipe. You can save, 75% of a recipe and then add your own flowers that you want to buy locally at the market. You can put in like flourish flower or flower I'm going to buy at the market and a price and build that in. And so that's that flexibility, I think, that you were talking about, Vicky, having the opportunity to not be so specific about the varieties, but then be able to kind of build those recipes and then, you know, buy what's affordable, what looks good, what feels good, and what that client might actually find really enticing that you don't have to think about 2 months in advance. You can do it as you go with the software.
absolutely. And the way I work, I don't really tend to promise exact flower types anyway. Obviously, like sometimes it's unavoidable because they really want a certain thing, but it's always even that under that circumstance. Under the proviso that look, it's nature, we might not be able to get them, but generally, I don't promise exact flower types at all. We talk about style and color and what's important to them in terms of like, they might look at a garden style bouquet like that one at the top there, and they might describe it as, oh, I just love how it like moves and it's not all like compact and uniformed and that sort of thing. So that's what's important to them, not throwing a different whole like half a dozen different flower types at them for them to sort of go, yeah, I guess, okay, that look, guess that would be good. I don't, because we're the experts, not them. But this allows you to be creative, like as you rightly should, and you put your own stamp on things as your own florist, your own creative brain. But it also keeps you into with costs. And my freelancers love this as well. Like like you said earlier, they don't get that at every other florist they work with. Um, so even for example, like bridesmaids bouquets or things where there's multiples of centerpieces or bridesmaids or whatever. If you use an Excel spreadsheet, you can't differentiate. So you might see the recipe and then have to do some mental sort of maths of, okay, right, I need 5 stems for each bouquet, even though it says 20 on here. Whereas with EveryStem, it's like it splits it into both. Like, okay, you should have a total of 20 stems, but you need 4 for each bouquet. It does the maths for you. It has the little instructions at the bottom saying things like use a black trailing ribbon on the bouquet or whatever those little things you talk about with your client, those little things that are quite important to them, or maybe even mechanics you want them to use. You could say like use a 1 foot long tray and add some chicken wire and moss to it or whatever it is. It can all go on there, so it gets it out of here as a business owner and gets it onto paper, so that I can just print it off and pretty much leave them to it essentially with minimal questions back. And as a business owner, that saves me time and headspace, and I can be doing something else, such as attracting new business by working on my website or all of that sort of thing. So yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I think, I've had a few people who have said, I used to be getting a million questions from my designers and my freelancers. And now since I've started using EveryStem, I get, so much fewer questions, which is exactly what you're talking about. If you can provide your freelancer with an inspiration image, and if they're making these elevated centerpieces in advance, you show them this image, you tell them,
Yeah.
but it's in this other color palette, show them maybe an image of the color palette and hand them the recipe with the instructions that's already in EveryStem. I mean, that can just make a freelancer so much more efficient. And I mean, I know that here in the United States, our rates for being freelance florists have gone up. And I
Mm.
charge a little bit more every year as a freelance florist. And so when I go in to another florist business and I start working, if they have a recipe and they have an inspiration image and they have everything I need to get ready, I can be so much more efficient and
Yeah.
they can get so much more money out of my hourly rate or my
Yeah.
daily rate than if they're like, well, first I have to make a sample arrangement, then we have to talk about what's going to be in it, then we have to see if we have enough flowers to cover 10 of these, and then we have to, and by then I'm like, is it lunchtime yet?
Yeah.
And so it's like the value of using a program and being efficient and being business minded really goes so much deeper than just not ordering too many flowers. It's so many different things, including the people who are working for you actually enjoying their job
Well,
because
that
they're
is
not
the
stressed
key.
about making
Yeah.
designs on the fly, right?
As I've freelanced for people, as have you, and you turn up to somewhere and the instructions aren't there, or you have to question, well, hang on, but what do you want this to look like? Or is this right before I tie it up? Or, do you usually do these bigger or smaller? Or what color ribbon should go on? It's you kind of, you're stressed and you're left thinking, I wish I'd charged more for this job. But yeah, I want the people who work for me to actually enjoy what they're doing because I feel like that shows in the work as well. We are not just some sort of flower factory banging out bouquets and centerpieces here. I don't know, maybe I'm a bit spiritual like that or whatever, but I feel like it needs to, you need to enjoy what you do and love what you do because that reflects in what my business is when what it produces. So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's so important. So let's ask if anybody has any questions out of everybody who's on live, pop them into the chat. If you want to ask Vicky any questions or you have any questions about the recipe collections, I'm just going to flip through this collection here. This secondary collection, we have two collections. We have the one that Vicky is providing here, and then we do have a secondary collection from another EveryStem user. And these are some of the inspiration images for that collection. So you're going to be able to buy one or both, and we're going to have information about what they include, the pricing for the collections, and if you buy both at the same time, you get a discount, a 10% off bundle discount. So this is something that's really going to be changing the way we do things in EveryStem. It's going to give you the power to build out recipes of your own or use recipes from vetted florists who know what they're doing and really be able to start to fine tune your designs, your style, and then using that recipe saving feature. Once you've done, if you use, for example, Vicky's recipe arch for this arch, but you want to use different flowers, or maybe you want to have some pieces that kind of extend the arch out on either side, on the right and left at the base, you can take that base recipe of this arch, save it, drop it into a new event, build that out, go do that event, kind of figure out how to fine tune it, and then go back into EveryStem and build a very accurate recipe between what Vicky's created and what you customize it to for your client. Now you have something that you can use over and over again and customize with different color palettes and, different seasons, because a lot of us do really like to work with locally grown flowers. And so the seasonality of those is really going to depend on where we live. Vicky's in the UK, so she's got different varieties than we have here in Texas. Um, so, the opportunities are really endless with this, and I want to kind of impart how much value you can get out of these 22 recipes that you're going to be purchasing for less than $200 that you can
This
use
is
for
it.
years. This isn't
Couldn't
like a
agree
one
more.
and done. This is something that can really develop as you develop your business.
I think not only could you make your money back from just doing one wedding, of buying these because you're not overspending or anything, but you can use it again and again and again. You can do that arch. Maybe it's winter and you want all red and blush pink flowers in it or something. You could just simply slot that recipe in. This is the beauty of having it in every stem. So, yeah, um, you can make your money back off the first wedding you buy it for, but also again and again, you can save money time and time again, save time as well. So yeah, I love that. I think, a lot of people who buy my recipe for, I'm just looking at some of the reviews I've got on my own sales page that, um, so like Samantha said, for example, I love the recipe vault. It's my absolute go-to for my last few weddings. Honestly, it's a great way to plan and get the best from proper budgeting on wedding spends. I've always overspent until purchasing this. Best money ever spent.
Oh, that's
So
amazing.
yeah, so there's loads of people who've loved it and found real great value in it. Another one, Beth said, uh, it's been a godsend for me, particularly with installation stem amounts. I was always terrible for over ordering because I was worried about that I wouldn't have enough. And this is something a lot of us can relate to, I think. Um, Another lady here says, I didn't use the exact flowers or style in the recipe, but it was super helpful in helping me to plan this all flower bouquet because they were used to doing, I don't know what it's like over in the US, but we in the UK, there's this traditional style of like it's more of a mixed, flowers, foliage sort of thing, and this new, relatively new to us, kind of like garden style with where it's just all flowers is really popular right now and
Hmm.
will continue to be, I'm sure. And people are unsure of how to work with it. They know they need more flowers, and they're like, "How the heck do we start with this? Like, how many flowers do I need? I can't bulk it out with greenery, you know." So Beth, sorry, that not wasn't Beth. Another lady used that to uh, kind of as a starting point for her own designs to check that she was along the right sort of lines in terms of like the amounts of stems she needed. So
Yeah. That's
so
perfect because if you're looking at like the top right bouquet, that's the one with the blue hydrangeas and peach roses, you know, even if your client wants a centerpiece that's all flowers,
yeah,
I mean, this
absolutely.
could be like if I cut the stems down and put this in a beautiful vase, this could be a centerpiece. It does not
100%.
have to be a bouquet. So, thinking about these things in kind of different creative ways can also be really helpful too, because it's really about, okay, this is a lush, low, full size. It's all flowers, no greenery. If you have a client that comes to you and says, I want a centerpiece that has, some roses and hydrangeas, but I really don't like greenery. And you're the
Yeah.
kind of florist that tends to bulk a centerpiece out with greenery and doesn't really feel confident building something a little bit more asymmetrical with all flowers. Take a bouquet design like this one and save that into your favorite recipes, dump it in and put it in the reception section and call it a centerpiece.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. It gives you that flexibility, doesn't it? I'm going to pick. I can see Angela. Angie's iPhone. That's my Angela, I think. So Angela, you must have a question. Please ask me anything you like. Uh, without mentioning names, we've got Loranda, Mary Jo, Sandra, Taylor. There's a few people on the call right now. If anybody has any questions as to, the recipe vault itself, or maybe you want to check me out as a florist, or how we use it in EveryStem, like please don't be afraid to ask. I know we've got a few minutes left, so there's
Absolutely.
no such
Yeah.
thing as a silly question. So please do ask, and you'll only help other people by asking good questions as well.
Yeah.
Um,
Tell me a little bit, Vicky, about in general for foam-free mechanics. I know that's really important for a lot of our members. We don't, a lot of people try to avoid using foam as much as possible. Um, each of your recipes comes with a little bit of information about the mechanics. Um, But tell me just like in general, what are your favorite foam-free mechanics to use for like installations and arches?
Yeah, absolutely. It's easier than people think. People are afraid to move from Oasis sometimes. Mary Jo, I'm going to answer your question in just a moment. Um, but yeah, I think because we have kind of grown up using Oasis, and I'm not, bashing people who use Oasis. I'm not entirely foam free myself in the business, so you have to use what's right for you. It does take. It's taken me about like a year and a half to basically figure out what's right for me, what works right for me in my business, what we like to use. Um, we use chicken wire and moss and water a lot. Flowers like water. Who knew? Go figure. So. Another thing we use is something called coconut coir, which is like it kind of we put it in a compostable bag, and it's kind of like a homemade Ocean pouch. Have you heard? Do you have those over there? The Ocean pouches? Yeah.
We do,
So
yeah, we do.
yeah, so there's, I mean, the ocean pouches are great, but like the coconut coir is so much cheaper, and we use that to create lots of our like centerpieces, even larger designs, and so those two things would be the most popular. And in the recipe vault, we kind of uh, some of the designs don't need foam, of course, but where they do use foam, I've mentioned, oh, instead of this, you could, if you want to go foam free, you could use XYZ as well. Um, Mary, it was Mary who asked that. Yes, yes. I'm going to answer Mary's question about Netflix as well. So yeah, Netflix was amazing. Mary Jo, absolutely fantastic. I'm sure you'll see it on the replay as well. But yeah, so they found us because it was filmed at a venue sort of near us, and they found us on our website. So I'm not familiar with you, Mary Jo, but if you don't have a website yet, please do get one because it's so important for being found online by new clients and things like that. Um, but yeah, they chose me out of a few other florists because I showed on my website basically that it gave them the confidence, like, yeah, Vicky can pull off this job. But it was an absolutely amazing experience. We did like 6 weddings back to back. If you want to watch Love Is Blind UK, but skip past all the rest of it and just watch the wedding episodes, it's episodes 10 and 11 that we feature on. Um, so yeah, I think that's the highest wedding count of all the Love Is Blinds, to be honest, across the globe. But yeah, it was real hard work, and but EveryStem was absolutely invaluable for it for making sure I stayed within the budget and made some good profit for my own business and paid my staff and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was absolutely fantastic. Um, did somebody else ask a question as well? By the way, anybody watching this, let me know what you think of the Love Is Blind stuff. If have you watched Love Is Blind UK yet? If pop it in the comments, or pop something on your Instagram stories or whatever it is. Feel free to drop me a message. Um, oh, you've answered Taylor's question. Cool, cool.
Vicky,
Yeah,
I
so
was freelancing not too long ago, and it was not long after you came out with the Love is Blind UK and it was released on Netflix. And I was freelancing at one of the pretty premier flower shops here in Austin. And I mentioned that you had done all the flowers. And the other florists that were working there that day said to me, we were just watching the wedding episodes and we were in awe of how much better the floral designs were than like the US. And I don't know who did the
yeah.
ones in the US, but they said they were just amazing compared and I haven't seen those. But they were so impressed and I said, "Well, that is an EveryStem member and her name is Vicky. I know her." And I was just gloating about it. And when I went back and looked, of course I went in, went on Netflix and watched the episodes and the florals are fabulous. So I have to say, if you haven't seen the Love is Blind UK florals, go on there, watch the episodes. You said it's episode 10 and 11.
Yeah.
Go watch those episodes, look at Vicky's work. It's phenomenal. Um, because, getting an opportunity like that does take time and effort, as Vicky has said, what she went through, kind of making sure that marketing her business, that her website is up to date, that it's representing her beautiful wedding designs, that it's showing her style. All those things are what led to that opportunity for Vicky. So I think that's just amazing. Um, and that your name at the end of the credits was pretty cool too.
Oh yeah, don't worry. But again, I made sure that happened as well. I was like, "Are we going to be credited?" And it was in my terms and conditions that they did that. So you got to make it happen for yourself as well. But obviously, I'm a Love Is Blind addict now, and I've watched, I think, everything except the Germany ones. I've looked at Japan's and Brazil's and America's and all sorts. And I think it boils down to not just, the styles of each country, but the budget that they're willing to throw at it in that country as well. So it's, I mean, yes, a lot of people have said that the UK weddings looked absolutely amazing. The flowers were phenomenal. Um, I have to agree, obviously, but
Hmm.
it boils down to a lot of things. So that's not bashing any other designers from any other country. It's the director, for example, in ours was amazing. They'd be checking their shots, and she was like, we need something fill in the background here, a bit of greenery on the windowsill or a vase of something in the background. So as a wedding florist, I was like, why are they asking for these random vases like on stands in the background? Well, that makes no sense. And then you see it through the camera and you're like, oh, right. That's why. So if you watch it and you see all these like little pops of color in the background, they'll be blurry, out of focus, and but it's filling the space everywhere. So it's the natural style of the director as well, and the budget they're willing to throw at it, and obviously the flexibility of the florist as well, if I may say so. And
Right, absolutely.
because of EveryStem, we were able to cater for all these little extras, like a vase of this, that, and here, and the other in the background, or maybe I know they're going to need some extra something to fill the background with. You could be flexible with it and buy a few extras, but within budget still.
Perfect. And Ange has a question. She says, knowing how many flowers to order does stress me out. How can I know what to substitute with and stem counts? That's a great question.
Yeah,
She
well,
wants to
that's a
put
really
you
good
through.
question,
Yeah.
Angela. So, if let's say you bought the bouquet recipe, well, you'll buy the whole collection, but if you looked at the peach and blue bouquet recipe at the top, and your client wanted whites and peaches instead of blues and peaches, you would what I would do is basically like substitute the blue delphinium in that recipe for like a white stock or something like that, something of the same sort of shape. But because of EveryStem, and I know Angela's one of my one-to-one clients, so I can discuss this with you more as well in private, Angela. But for everybody else watching, the it's about being flexible, and you don't have to know every single stem type, variety type, whatever it is before you quote, while you're making your recipes. So for me, that is as soon as someone books, they go into EveryStem. My assistant creates the event in EveryStem and starts putting some basic information in, like which designs they're having, and then I go in and put the actual sort of recipes and the flower types. So be general with it is what I would say. So rather than um like a I don't know, a Juliet David Austin for a peach rose, you might just put peach garden rose, which is what I do. And then when you're shopping online for the person's um, wedding, like a week before the wedding or something, you can just see, all right, what peach garden roses have they got this week that fit within budget? And yeah, I'll try that one. That looks lovely. So you don't have to be so specific about it, and EveryStem allows you to do that, whereas other recipe softwares and all-in-one type systems like don't. I think I find them restrictive because you feel like you have to put like a David Austin Juliet rose instead of just peach garden rose. Or you might choose to be even more general and just put, instead of white stock, you might just put white tall flower or white spiky flower or whatever. doesn't matter what you call it, it's just for you. Um, so yeah, that's you don't have to know all the flower types. I know Angela, you're fairly new to this, and but it shouldn't matter because I know at the beginning you feel like, oh, I need to know every single flower type so that I know what to substitute this. This what peaches garden roses are they? I need to know so I can write that in my recipe. You don't. You just need to be quite general, and give yourself that wiggle room, and that means you can stay within budget. And it also means that when you go online and shop a week before and David Austin Juliets aren't there on the system, or maybe they're like 3 times the price you thought they were going to be, you don't have to get the shock of your life and think, oh my goodness, stress, and shop for something else. You can just use the filters on the online web shop and kind of do it that way. Or if you're in the US and you're shopping with your local florist wholesaler rep, you could sort of say like just peach garden roses, something similar to a David Austin Juliet maybe, but well, I'm not fussy on the type, stick within this budget here, please. Um, so yeah. I hope that answers your question, Angela. I can't actually see it on the
On the
list here.
chat. Yeah, it's I think it's a direct message, so you might not be able to see it. But
Okay, okay.
what I would add to that, what Vicky just said is spot on what I would say. But the only thing I would add to that is that when you are building recipes, there is a concept called functional flower recipes that is kind of what Vicky is generally discussing. But you can think about flowers in a form shape. So we all have probably heard of like focal flowers, line flowers, dancer flowers, filler flowers. So if you know that you have a focal flower, which is a garden rose, and you want to change that out, think about what the other focal flowers might be. And that is your list of flowers you could substitute with. If you have
Yeah.
a line flower, like Vicky's saying, tall, spiky flower, whether it's a delphinium or a larkspur or a stock or a liatris or anything like that.
Gladiola or something, yeah.
Right, a snapdragon, anything long and tall, even if you want to make something that doesn't have that many blooms coming up the stem, limonium or something, you can take anything that has some height and length to it and call that like a line flower. So I would recommend thinking about if you want to substitute a flower from one of Vicky's recipes or from something else, thinking about the type of flower it is. So is it a filler flower? Is it a line flower? Is it a focal flower? Is it an accent flower? Um, and I like to call them dancer flowers. Is it a flower that kind of you're going to put in for the movement and dances
Yeah.
above the rest of the arrangement? What
That's
type
so
of
funny. I
flower
call them
is it?
that too.
Yeah, oh good. And then think about what flowers fill that category. So if it's a dancer flower, is it a butterfly ranunculus? Is it a cosmos? Is it a little bud of a lycianthus, a smaller bloom of a lycianthus? Is it anything that we want, a scabiosapod, a little bunny tail, anything like that could be a dancer flower. So is it a smaller headed bloomed flower that can kind of have some length and stick up above a sweet pea could be a dancer flower. So if you think about it by those categories or functional recipes, I think that could be super helpful. And I do have a whole kind of Zoom call and presentation about how to use functional flowers. So if you're interested in that, just shoot me an email. It's LuAnn@EveryStem.com. You can email me and I can send that to you. But I think that's pretty much what Vicky's saying. Think about kind of that shape and what it fills in, and then substitute it with something that works for your color palette and your season with another flower that fits that same category.
Definitely. And if you haven't been too specific with your client throughout the process either, you can do that without sort of having to go back to them and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Like this isn't available, like we discussed. Would this new flower be okay?" Like my clients don't need that. They don't need to see every single flower type. Even if I showed them every single flower type that I thought would be nice, it could all change anyway. And they would have trouble imagining it all put together because again, we're the experts and not them. So that my clients kind of they book me because they trust me, they've met me, and they're like, Vicky, we love your stuff. We're happy with your ideas. Just go do your thing, work your magic.
That's
And this
right.
is
Run with it. Yeah. Go run with it. Exactly. And I think too, I recently was talking to a newer EveryStem member who was asking if they should put their recipes into their proposals. And I want to iterate what Vicky's saying. The recipes and EveryStem, that software and all the recipes that you're using, that's for internal, your business use
Yeah,
only. And then the proposal you're sending to your client is going to be, you know, a general description of the design with just the price that you're charging them. You don't want to include prices of individual flowers. You don't want to put any of your wholesale
yeah.
costs. You want to make sure that you're putting the full cost that you're charging the client, and then all the internal stuff, your profit margin, your wholesale costs, that all stays inside EveryStem, and that's for your internal use only.
100%. So like if I'm sending a quote to a client, it'll say something like a beautiful garden style bridal bouquet in a mixture of peach and blue colors. If they do have a preference, I'll write on there something like um, if peonies are available, we will endeavour to put those in, or something like that. But it always leaves me that wiggle room. I certainly do not put recipes in there and tell them it will include three peach garden roses and all the rest. And I tell you why I learned that lesson very early on in my career as well. It was actually the very, very first wedding I did, and I was still doing work experience at my local shop. So I think you guys call that internship. But so I did a wedding of my own for a friend, and I did it the way that the florist that I worked for does it. And so I said, a head table, top table centerpiece, which includes 15 white roses and this, that, and the other. And the bridal bouquet was like, it'll include X, Y, Z and white roses. And immediately, the first question she came back and she says, that all sounds great, but this includes more white roses, but it costs less than that. Why is this? And, so like, because I put that recipe in there, that gave her food for thought. Whereas I needn't have done that really. It's not necessary and it just confuses people. Um, so yeah, I learned that very early on and I've never done it since.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's important for us to understand as florists that when we're creating these designs and we're building our recipes, I'm just going to switch over to the EveryStem page real quick. We'll return to the dashboard. When we look at the profit margin of a wedding, and you can see here that this wedding, I charged the client 13,300 and change. This is before tax, and my profit margin is 75%. Now, once I've done this recipe, all the recipes for all these flowers, and I get these flowers into my flower shop, and I can start building out my designs that I've created, I do not have to stick specifically to every single recipe that's written. If I need to rob a little from Peter to pay Paul, as they say,
Yeah,
I can do that because what I know is I've spent 3,200 on flowers. So every flower that I've purchased and it's in my studio for this wedding, I'll be making a 75% profit margin if I use every stem. That's why we named it EveryStem.
yeah,
One of the reasons. And so I can, and this is kind of what Vicky has been saying all along. If I feel like my bouquet needs 8 garden roses and my bridesmaid bouquet only needs 1 garden rose, I can do that. And I can go to the wedding, fluff out everything. Some people call it zhuzh it, some people call it filling in. We all know when we go to an event, we have to kind of fill in some holes. Things break during transport, things kind of get shifted around while we're in the delivery van. So all of our extras and all of the flowers that maybe we didn't use or we adjusted can be used with confidence, but you don't have to be so restrictive that every single recipe has to be the exact number
yeah.
of flowers. So keep that in mind as you're designing and working. And one other point I want to make is this extras column. What I like to do when I get my flowers in for a wedding, and I don't know if Vicky does this or not, but I
My
take,
favorite column.
right? I think it's a lot of people's favorite column.
Yeah,
It's like our happy place. If I have extra orchids, I have extra smilax. Maybe I wouldn't put that in a bucket. I'd keep that off to the side. But my extra stock, my extra sweet peas, I like to put those in little vases or a bucket and label it as extras. And
Mhm.
then as I'm designing and working, I know that I can pull from those buckets because those are my extras. So that's a really helpful tip that I think a lot of people benefit from. Do you kind of use those extras in that way, Vicky?
That's actually a really good idea to do that. I mainly use the extras column to try and keep within budget. So, I have my recipes and I'll see like, oh, actually, then maybe that profit margin percentage isn't quite what I want it to be at. I can look at the extras column and say, I mean, in here, sweet peas tend to come in packets of 50. So, like, have I gone to like 55 stems and therefore it's buying a whole, then I've got 45 spare? Like, could I reduce that a little bit or maybe I'd change them to something else? So I'm sticking within the 50 or, I really help it like that. But I love your idea there. So I'm gonna pinch that. So,
Awesome.
um,
Yeah. I think
I've been,
using it in both of those ways combined can be
yeah,
helpful because once we've reduced the number of extras, like maybe my stock, I know that it's kind of at the end of the season and I don't think it's going to be great. So I want to have 8 extra stems.
yeah,
I,
just in
I
case.
can control that. So the beauty of every stem that I think is so nice and that Vicky's talking about being able to be creative and feel that comfort is that if I want, an extra bunch of garden roses. What if I make a column, put an extra bunch of garden roses in, put down at the bottom a zero quoted price because I'm not charging the client for those? What happens to my profit margin and can I still make enough? If my goal is a
Yeah.
70% profit margin and I'm at 75%, but I know my client is kind of obsessed with garden roses and I'm a little worried that they might not be perfect and I want an extra bunch, I can make those smart decisions because I'm using a software that is showing me
Yeah.
real numbers. You know what I mean?
And it's worthwhile. No, I know we have to sort of cut off soon, but
Yes, we've been
uh,
over an hour.
I know it's time flies when you're having fun, as they say over here. But it's worthwhile noting that I work on it's like a fixed price model as well, which might help every STEM users put sort of set up their flower libraries and their recipes here. So like a garden rose, for example, I might put as like £3.50 or something like that, just to be on the safe side, and that includes our tax as well, so I don't have to figure that out separately.
Right.
And a normal rose might be like £2.50 or £1.50, whatever it is I price it at. So because I work in a fixed price model, I'm able to keep control of things. Even when flower prices rise or lower slightly, I'm still charging the same amount and sticking to the same sort of profit level. Um, it just you don't have to, like you said earlier, reinvent the wheel every time. You don't have to check, right, okay, there's a wedding next April. What are the garden rose prices likely to be then? Like nobody has a crystal ball in this industry. So I use this fixed price model to sort of just set basic prices across the board. So my library is set up and that's it done. I don't, unless there's like some sort of major shift in things like, Lysianthus is always coming in at a bit more than expected now, and I might have to change that. I don't change it for each recipe, each wedding is what I'm trying to say here.
Right.
So
Just kind of raise it as you see the prices kind of raise,
yeah,
across the
which I
board.
rarely have to do,
Yeah.
basically.
That's super smart, Vicky. I think I'm more of the person who kind of checks with the wholesaler and sees what the price is going to be and kind of updates it a little bit more frequently.
I think
But
it has to be over there. Like that's kind of the way you work slightly
yeah,
different.
yeah, I think I'm more that in that way. But I do have a lot of EveryStem members, in the US that, they're like, I'm just going to put in the highest price that I'm
Yeah.
estimating all season. So, I've talked to my wholesaler. Luckily, I have a local wholesaler who I have a very developed, great relationship with. And so I'm kind of spoiled in that regard. But, I'll say to them, well, if I'm going to buy ranunculus 6 times this season, what do you think the highest price is going to be? And they'll be like,
Yeah.
well, last season, they track that stuff. Last season, the
Yeah.
highest price was $2.50. Well, then maybe I'll just put it in at that highest price. And that way, if it's a little lower or it's a touch higher, I know that I'm covering my costs and I'm going to make my profit. And I think that's kind of like your how you do it. You keep it pretty standard
Yeah,
in that regard.
basically, it's the highest price, just as you just said there. Just going
Perfect.
to take a little photo for our Instagrams here, by the way.
Oh, great. Yes.
There we go. I'd love to know what you guys think once you buy the recipe saving feature and the recipe vault. Like like put it on your Instagram stories and tag Wedding Florist Mentor and EveryStem and stuff. Because I would absolutely love to hear people's feedback on this.
I'm super excited about it, Vicky. We've already got people emailing me and wanting to purchase it. So this is going to be so much fun to kind of get into this endeavor with you and share these recipes with people through EveryStem so that they can not only have it written out on a piece of paper or PDF, but have it in a software that they can actually manipulate very easily and very quickly. So if you guys have questions about purchasing either of these two collections, we've got Vicky's Wedding Florist Mentor collection, we've got Hillary's Boutique Wedding Studio collection. If you want to purchase either one of them, they are $149.99 each. And then if you'd like to purchase both of them at the same time, they would be $299.98, but we're giving you a bundled discount, so they're only going to be $269.98. So you do have to be a member of EveryStem. You have to have an active EveryStem account, and then we will upload these into your account, and they are a one-time fee in addition to your membership. So if anybody has any questions, just let me know. You can email me at luann@everystem.com. And if you have questions for Vicky, she's amazing. I can get you in touch with her. But she's sharing so much valuable knowledge from her experience. And I think that combined with the power of having them loaded into your EveryStem account so that you can use them and customize them and profit from them is going to be really, I know game changer is used a lot, but I do believe this is worthy of the words game changer.
I would agree.